uncertainty and trying times. I want to thank everyone for being with us today. I do want to be respectful of everyone's time, and so we'll give just a couple of minutes for anyone who might be coming in really briefly as we start the meeting tonight. I do want to give some time first to make introductions for myself, for my fellow panelists this evening. Thanking them for their time being with us, the excellent conversation that we're looking forward to having, and the expertise that they have as well. And so we will get started here shortly. On the front end of this, just for some minor housekeeping notes, please, if you've got questions, we'll be making sure that we're checking constantly for questions and items to discuss. So please enter them into the chat box. We'll be checking that and monitoring that periodically throughout the night. Also, we will be starting with our questions that were submitted electronically beforehand, but we will be addressing any of those questions as well as questions submitted through Facebook Live coming up here shortly. So I don't know, Ryan, do you all usually want to start right at 8, or you want to wait a minute just to see as people come into the meeting, or how do you want to address?
Let's wait a couple minutes. I'm also getting the Facebook Live ready to go. So
okay.
Yeah.
All right, just bear with us, everyone. We'll get started here shortly. Ryan, just let me know when you got everything set up and you're ready to go. All right, give me 1 second. All right, Ryan, are you ready to go?
It's giving me issues on the Facebook Live end, but I'm recording it, so
okay,
we should be good to go. I'll be trying to get it up in the background, so feel free to take it from here.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. First and foremost, thank you. Welcome everyone to our second GMS Alumni Forum. You know, this is a great opportunity for us to connect and build out relationships with one another in our network. You know, really starting to build the Alumni Association out and really starting to showcase the talent that we've got within our own network and starting to support one another. So first and foremost, my name is Sterling Johnson. Pronouns are he, him, and his. I'm honored to serve as the Atlanta chapter lead for the GMS Alumni Association. Thankful to be in the presence of some great and talented individuals, and you'll be able to hear more from them on this call specifically. For today's webinar, I want to highlight the conversation, of course, is going to be around managing financial uncertainty during these uncertain times. Naturally, we're all being affected one way or the other right now by what's going on around our country. And not to be insensitive to the fact that, of course, that has a lot of implications for people financially, for your families, for your economic outlook. And, you know, naturally with us, many of us being young stage professionals re-entering or entering into the workforce, there should be some scholars on this call as well. Being sensitive to the fact that sometimes these are difficult conversations we need to have to, one, prepare ourselves and start thinking through that process on our own personal finance, but then also on how we can engage or re-engage with our communities that are in need right now. and then thinking on the forward side around how we can rebound or how can we insulate ourselves and our families and the ones we love from the trying times going on right now as well. So I'm thrilled to be with you. Looking forward to this timely conversation. And we will shortly allow our panel to introduce themselves. I'm sure you all will enjoy hearing from them tonight as well. On the front end, I do want to highlight our poll question for the night. We do like to hear a check-in from just everyone individually, kind of what's going on with each and every one of you. How do you identify yourselves and what are some of your concerns? And so hopefully within the course of the conversation tonight, we'll get a chance to address those as well. So I'll give you all a chance to respond to those questions and we'll get a report out on that. Just a few minor housekeeping items. First and foremost, we love our GMS family. For those of you all who have not met me yet, I'm looking forward to meeting and getting engaged with everyone and continuing to build this network out. And, I think we've got a lot to share, not only with each other, but also with the world overall. Also, the opinions shared by our panelists are not representative of their respective employers, nor mine. This is not meant to serve as a consultation in a sense, but really is more to be a conversation framed by our personal expertise and best practices. Everything that you hear tonight, I want to assure you, you can take to the bank as far as being sound advice, but it's not something that we're explicitly telling you to do yourself. So just keep that in mind, everything that you hear. If you would like to follow the conversation tonight, feel free to use the Facebook Live function. Of course, we've got Instagram pages for each of the individual chapters and others across the country. So please feel free to engage with us on those medium as well. You are in webinar mode, so participants won't be able to speak during the webinar, but we will, of course, be monitoring the chat line, as I see is very active already. The town hall will be recorded, so for those who are not able to be with us today, there will be a recording made available that we'll share out with the network, and hopefully it'll be a chance for everyone to engage there as well. And then there will be a resource document as well. We know that this is a loaded conversation with a lot of pitfalls, and we want to make sure that we're giving everyone the space to be able to get questions answered or to feel comfortable in how they're approaching some of these issues. And of course, having resources available are always comfortable steps to take on the other side of how you resolve these issues. So before we get started with our panelists, I do want to briefly introduce Justin Bailey, who's a new program manager with the Gates Scholars Alumni Association. He'll be doing a lot of work with us here at the alumni level as well. So Justin, really briefly, do you want to just address the audience and talk a little bit about your role?
Awesome. Thank you, Sterling. So really, really briefly, guys, so you all can get into the meat of the topic. So I am Justin Bailey. I've been with UNCF for about a month, although I haven't been in the office for a full 8 hours. So I just wanted to introduce myself to you all. I've been in higher ed and workforce development for the last 6 or 7 years. And I look forward to engaging with you guys. Hopefully soon it'll be more in person instead of virtually, given the current state of the country. But I'm going to drop my email as well. If there's any kind of topics or anything that you would like GMS scholars to congregate and talk and speak and just be on one accord, I can come to a city near you and we can get it done. So I'm glad to be here. I'm glad you all have tuned into joining this conversation about such an important topic. So thank you, and I look forward to working with each and every one.
Great, thank you so much, Justin. Really quickly, I don't know if everyone can see the poll sharing results on our screen, but this is just taking the temperature of what everyone today feels like is important to them, learning a little bit more. Of course, we see we've got a couple students and grad students on our line as well. We've got several working professionals and some unemployed individuals as well. So hopefully you all will be able to take something from this conversation that's useful to the next stages. And of course, being able to connect with our network to be able for those entering the workforce or re-entering the workforce, that hopefully we can leverage our collective influence to assist our partners in need. The second question is, what is of most concern to you financially? And the largest sector of those responses is personal finance, with investing coming in second place as well. So thankfully, it sounds like we're on the right page already. We're looking forward to addressing all of these topics tonight. And as a great segue, I will turn it over now to our panelists. And I want to introduce Dave Potter and Darius Coral. So Dave, can you get us started with just a little bit about yourself and your background and expertise, and then we'll get into some questions.
Yeah, it sounds perfect. So thanks a ton for that, Sterling. And what's happening, GMS family? Hope everyone's doing well and everyone's doing well and is healthy. A little bit more on myself. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I'm from Maryland, so I'm a GMS 14 scholar, and I went to University of Maryland in College Park. There I studied finance and marketing, and around like going into my sophomore year when I was applying for off-campus housing, I ended up getting rejected for housing, even though like for all of us, our scholarships like covered housing in a sense, like we didn't really have to pay much out of pocket. But I didn't have a credit score at the time, so I didn't get approved. And that just wasn't for like one housing opportunity, but was really for all of the off-campus housing opportunities near me. So I got rejected like there and there again. So through that, over summers, taking summer courses, I began to couch surf a bit, learn more about credit, and eventually got approved for housing. So that kind of was a little bit of the struggles or between the rock and a hard place that I faced with credit. But through that, I began to find a bit more of a passion in solving that for myself. Then earned certification in credit counseling and financial counseling. I helped about like 300 people with a private practice begin to establish their credit, whether it was like parents, immigrants, students, and get like their first lines of credit or mortgages and things like that. But then from there, we began to, it was like hard to juggle that and school. So we began to turn a lot of those like insights into like an algorithm, financial technology. The initial idea behind it was instead of like a credit karma, just like boosting people's like credit scores to help people build up their eligibility, help solve that problem. Fast forward a little bit, right now more of what we do is we help people get approved for financial like products. So if you don't, know what to do to get approved, or if you would apply, and instead of getting rejected and getting like a hard no, you get, the action that you need to take, or that transparency to know, what you need to do. So I say kind of both of those angles because I faced a lot of financial problems myself, even when, my head was directly in finance. And I think the reality of it is all of us run into the situation. COVID's affected all of us. I think that's just really the reality here. So I think I've seen, a business side of this and the personal side, as well from the business side as well. Some people were like interested on that business angle. Also, we have pursued the like venture route and like fundraising. So people would be interested in like building businesses and things on that side. Happy to talk on that as well. But happy to build this conversation with you guys. Happy all of you guys are here. And from there, happy to pass it back either to you, Sterling, or over to you, Darius.
We'll pass it to Darius.
Darius Quarles here. Good afternoon, everyone, fellow GMS alums, current students. It's definitely a privilege to be here tonight speaking with you all. Wherever you are in the world, I'm sending you peace and love first and foremost. And a little bit about myself. I'm originally from the South Side of Chicago, born and raised, current resident in Chicago, spent 10 years away from the city, both getting a degree at Morehouse College in sociology, getting a degree in education entrepreneurship at University of Pennsylvania, and being an entrepreneur for the past 7 years. I consider myself to be a lifelong entrepreneur, lifelong business owner. And so the value that I'm looking to add to today's conversation is really giving anyone who is currently sort of feeling like they have the seed of business ownership or entrepreneurialism within them. I want to water that seed this evening and just encourage everyone who may be looking for opportunities to generate income, looking for opportunities to sort of think through what this moment means for their financial future, to leverage business ownership. And that does not mean you have to be the only person sort of operating a business, but leveraging business ownership as an opportunity to create financial stability and financial health and wellness for yourself. I'm the co-founder of Bro Capital, which is a financial platform specifically for Black men to come together and pool their capital. We've been at this work for the past 3.5 years, and we've learned a tremendous amount of information, particularly about Black men and how they relate sort of to their money and the psychology that sort of controls a lot of the financial decision making. But we've also developed insights about just how human beings in general sort of relate to their money. One of the things that fascinates us today is the metric that, 7 out of 10 millennials in America who couldn't afford a $1,000 emergency if they needed to tomorrow. And that's sort of been a metric that has sort of driven me in this work because in my own personal life, I've come to understand fully what $1,000 emergency can mean. It, at face value, it just means $1,000, but it literally can mean the difference between being able to bury a loved one with dignity. And so for me, this work is something that I bring passion to. And I certainly look forward to being as candid as I can with the questions that we're going to get through today, but also sort of being a devil's advocate and sort of offering up some, what I will call some like non-standard answers. These are responses and answers that I don't think folks who are not within our communities and who don't count themselves as people of color I don't think we get a lot of this information often, and we don't get people who are willing to be open and candid with us. So that's what I hope to bring tonight.
Yes, perfect. So really briefly, and I think that's an excellent segue into what I was about to announce, that I want you all to know that this is a safe space for everyone. I know conversations about money and finance are really difficult to have, especially within historically underserved or non-minority or non-white communities. Explicitly, a lot of us, I heard it so eloquently stated by our GMSA president, Moon, and she mentioned that a lot of us come from a background of shared struggle, right? And that's what connects us. That the entire access to this opportunity through this scholarship came from some particular background and experiences that a lot of us share in our youth. But then, of course, that having this platform and this opportunity and the ability to transcend our lives, that comes with a new set of struggles, right? And so learning financial literacy, learning how to manage our money and our resources, and then ultimately how we can build those things and do well with the wealth that we're able to generate is something that we're definitely interested in exploring as well. So Darius, Dave, lucky to have you. Really briefly, I didn't touch at all on my background. And I'm in economic development. Right now, I work for a nonprofit called the Partnership for Southern Equity, where I lead their program management for their Just Opportunity or their economic inclusion programs. My background is in business development, small business, specifically government contracting and procurement, workforce development, and I've done a series of policies and programs with governments around the country to be able to promote economic inclusion for people of color. So I'm looking forward to this conversation, and we will go ahead and get started. Last item, we will be possibly going over tonight. I know we have it slated for about an hour for the conversation tonight, and so for anyone who can't stay over, please feel free to drop off. There's no hard feelings. We definitely want to make sure that you have an opportunity to be as engaged with us as you can. For those who are interested in continuing the conversation, if the conversation is to go over a little bit, then we'll definitely make sure that you all have your platforms to continue to ask questions and to engage with us as the panelists this evening. So the first question that I want to throw out to our panelists is for those who are either in the job market or looking to enter the job market. We've got some current scholars and some grad students as well on the line. And so those who are, might be unemployed or underemployed, or even just looking at switching jobs, what recommendations would you give them right now for navigating the job market?
Yeah, so with navigating the job market, I would kind of just start at a level higher. So actually, very quickly again, hey everybody, and welcome to everyone that just hopped in. And for people that are like on the job market looking for a job, maybe you're not employed right now, or just like navigating what the best thing to do right now is. I think one thing that I noticed just at a very high level is recognize it's something that everyone is going through, and it's best to act calmly. So in the sense where you might be in between jobs, I noticed that there were a few people that might be unemployed right now. I have a few recommendations on things that you can immediately do in the sense of like the gig economy or things that are immediately available. I know like top of mind, people may think things like Uber, things like that. I think actually, from what I heard, like Uber may not actually like be picking up too well right now. But a few other services, and happy to go a little bit deeper on into it later if you guys like are interested in like the specifics. But things like Instacart, which is like grocery delivery. I know a friend who said it's very easy or achievable to get $200 a day from things like that. And there are a bunch of opportunities like this where you can kind of, if you're in between positions, just give yourself a little bit more of a stable pay, or make sure that you have enough to cover some of those emergency bills, and not have to rely on other emergency funds that'll put you like more up to your neck. And then when you're in that position, I think again, it allows you to be more in that position, to have a game plan. I would encourage in a sense of savings or giving yourself that comfort. If you do have, at least, or if you can have say 6 months of saving, I think it allows you in this time that room to really begin to start applying and looking for positions that are available. Almost everything right now is remote. And I noticed that a lot of jobs right now that have already been remote are affected least by this. So like this is like an extreme example. Like you're not gonna have as much success if you're applying for like a being inside of a bank or working at a restaurant. But if you're applying for a job that is used to remote culture, they might even be expanding right now. If you're doing very well right now, then it might be like a much more like opportune time for that. So like at a high level, that would be kind of how I would say, position yourself well, get comfortable. You know, everyone's going through this, it's fine. Get your game plan going, save up a little bit more money, stack that bread. And then from there, I think, you know, you can find the opportunities that's best for you if it comes towards it, because I think there were some questions around like negotiating or how to best position that. And I don't think right now is the best time to negotiate fiercely. You know, get yourself in a good position. Once things get better, you can definitely negotiate your way up. But I think if you're in a strong position, you can definitely negotiate your way into a good initial pay or a good position in this time. Darius, you have something that you want to maybe add in on that?
Certainly. I think it's so many different layers to the question. So, and I think to offer the best advice, you have to kind of get into the details of what are the categories of the situations that folks will find themselves in. So I'm going to try to hit on some valuable advice at each and every level. So for those who are currently looking for work, right? You're in a position where you've either transitioned out of a recent employment opportunity, or, you know, you've just entered the job market and, you know, here comes COVID-19. So what to do next beyond that? I would say first and foremost, whatever you can do to enhance your skill set in the area that you're looking to work within, or really just polish this skill set such that it can be more marketable. Now is a great time to think about pursuing certifications, particularly if you can get those certifications for free, such that, you know, as opportunities begin opening up more, you're right in position for them, or you're already sitting on a skill set that you have, but a certification can just put you in better position to market that. So taking this time to sort of be patient and pursue anything that can really just boost your profile. Now is a great time, because often that's what we have on our hands right now is a whole lot of time. So thinking about strategic ways to best use that time right now is the first thing. For those who are currently sort of in what they would describe as like a stable employment situation, and so you're not looking for work, but you might feel like there's still uncertainty. You don't know how many more months you might have work. You don't necessarily know what the stability of your company might be. I would say for those folks, then it really is time to begin planning about what would it look like, you know, if you lost your job tomorrow. Do you currently actually have a plan in place to mitigate loss of income? And I think that's where pursuing certifications, pursuing additional education, particularly anything that can be leveraged for free, could sort of be a buffer to that as well, right? You already pursuing those certifications and getting that education under your belt can put you in better position to pursue an opportunity tomorrow. And then beyond that, I know that a lot of employment opportunities are still very networked, right? You only know about them if you sort of are within the right networks, or you know the right people who can connect you with that opportunity. So now is a great time to begin actually reconnecting with people and resources, organizations such as GMS, who sort of already have, you know, a partnership strategy, and they have people who, you know, so this information sort of can flow through. I know for myself, for instance, I'm not looking for work at all, but I've received, you know, 10 plus emails in the past 2 weeks, sort of with job postings, with remote work opportunities. And, you know, to the extent that I can share that out with friends, share that out with people who might, you know, that might be critical information for them. So that's just something that I'm doing of my own volition. But I know a lot of organizations are doing that type of work right now, particularly organizations that work within sort of the field of equity, work within advancing communities of color. A lot of them are looking to share out, you know, job boards, job postings, and any of that networked information where it's like, this isn't necessarily being posted on monster.com. Indeed, it's not being posted on social media necessarily. It's just organizations that are looking for, additional talent right now, or they're looking for talent in very sort of selective skill sets. And that information is sort of being kept private at this moment in time. So reach back out to organizations that you might be connected to, whether that be through, any schools that you're associated with, community-based organizations, sororities, fraternities, et cetera. The list really sort of goes on. All of these entities and people can be conduits to an opportunity for you.
That's great advice. And I want to jump really briefly to something you both touched on, which was the gig economy, right? That as our economy was growing, that we saw multiple people, especially millennials and younger professionals or younger stage professionals, really taking advantage of the gig economy. And so one of the questions we had come in through our chat line was, how can we use our skills right now to make money on the side? Finding information about where those opportunities are, how to access them, and then how to pursue them as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, 1,000,000%. I see a question in the box as well, asking about which certifications are free. And yeah, someone even responded, a lot of digital certifications are free. Yeah, I would pretty much mirror that. So a lot of popular like online courses, I think like Udemy, Google has some online courses. A lot of those like really mainstream course websites, especially right now in like the times for COVID, they have like different like micro certifications or even full courses right now. Whether that's in graphic design, coding, it really covers a lot. A lot of it will typically be digital, maybe like marketing, search engine optimization, but there's something that like, YouTube, social media marketing, a lot of stuff like that. So if you go on one of those, like look around for something that interests you, maybe you're a little bit more passionate about, or maybe you already have like a background in graphic design, build off of that. And then you can hop over to something like Fiverr, Upwork, which those are like, how to describe it, gig economy, like contracting things. So if you have like a unique skill, I guess the basis of Fiverr was if you had like a simple skill that you could like bust out for like $5. So if you could do someone a logo very quickly, within like 10 minutes to 30 minutes, something like that, then you can like sell it for $5, something that you can do at scale. Now there's different price points. You can sell something like $50 or $100 on there. But it's just something, if you have a skill, you can sell it on there. One of my sisters does like embroidery. If you do something crafty, you can sell it on Etsy. And then towards like what I was saying earlier for like Instacart. So I don't know, and if someone knows better, I don't know how well like Uber or Lyft is doing right now since too many people aren't going out or traveling. I think Amazon Flex is doing very well. So like a lot of people are still ordering stuff and packages are going out. Amazon Flex is the like Amazon Now delivery for the packages. So if you want to deliver for Amazon, they pay pretty well, and it's like the same kind of approval as something like Uber. So I may recommend looking out for something like that. And then for Instacart, just a very quick brief, because I was like speaking with my friend on like what he was doing. And he said, like, if you just wake up pretty early, like Costco opens like at 6 a.m. You wake up early, just pick like one of the bigger, I don't know what you call it, like the bounty for the groceries that you're picking up. So you get something from like $40 to $60. You do that just a few times. So by the afternoon or within, up to a full day of work, you pretty much guarantee to get $150 to $200 a day. So if you put in the work, that's pretty guaranteed as well. So those would be a few things that I would say for like certifications or the gig economy.
Great. Darius, do you have anything you wanted to add in and mention? I see you've been responding to people in the chat box as well.
Yeah, certainly. I just was presenting some valuable information. So I just wanted to recap some of the resources that he was throwing out so that it's formally in the chat for folks. Instacart, Amazon Flex, Fiverr. I thought those are all good recommendations for, if you have a skill set, translating that over to income generation. And here's my opportunity to sort of give my initial pitch into, what business ownership can be, and the great opportunity that I think so many of us are sitting on right now in terms of not only business ownership being like so feasible right now, because so many of us are sitting on this great valuable resource called time, but it also being a true opportunity to income generation, right, in the short term, and being something that you can leverage not only now, but even as, if the economy rebounds anytime soon, right, it's still being there for you even at that point. as well. So not just being looked at, business ownership is an opportunity to look at income generation on the side, something sort of that's adjacent to your career, anything that you're pursuing sort of professionally in the corporate world. That business ownership can be that thing where you can generate both active and passive income. So somebody just mentioned what are the opportunities to sort of generate passive income in this time. I will be the first to say that I think passive income is probably going to be one of the rarest things folks are going to see right now, because one of the first things people will say when it comes to passive income is the stock market. The stock market has took such a great hit recently. There's still so much uncertainty around it. The smartest folks right now are probably going to tell you, this is again sort of my advice. What I think the smartest financial advisors are going to tell anybody who they're advising is that you're going to want to be patient with entering it. So even though it's traditionally like one of the best forms of generating passive income, it right now in this moment in time is also one of the most sort of uncertain places to place your money. That being said, the Dow did take a 25% correction, right? It's the largest correction that we've seen in a decade. And so for anybody who was sort of hesitant about investing, they were like right before this COVID thing happened, you were thinking about, beginning to invest some of your money into the market, but you were just sort of waiting for whatever reason. Now is a good time to begin thinking about that. And I'm just saying that in a very general way, right? A lot of stocks are now much less expensive. The correction means that, there is an opportunity to sort of just ride the rebound that is happening. If you're even just investing just in the standard, S&P 500, you stand to be able to see over the next few years, right? Looking at it, not just in a short term, but from a longer term perspective over the next 3 to 5 years, just putting your money in the market can be a great opportunity to sort of ride that wave up. And we saw the same thing that happened in 2007, 2008, 2009, as the downturn happened. A lot of people from then to now sort of rode that wave up until the recent correction. So for all of us who are sort of just on the fence about investing, now is certainly the best time to buy. And it's been in a long time, but the only problem there is that there is still a lot of uncertainty. We still don't know what the next 6, 12 months looks like. So I think that's one of the first areas that I would get into in terms of thinking about passive income.
Okay. Really quickly, I want to touch on this question just briefly so we can get to some of our other topic areas. For those who are newly entering the workforce or may have started new jobs, right? We've always heard the euphemism, last one hired, first one fired, right? So how do people begin to prepare themselves for the potential of a layoff at their job?
Yeah, my personal advice is be headstrong and be a go-getter. I think at least in the perception of being a business owner. I mean, and maybe you were hired right on the brink of right before this happened, and now this happened, so things are a little bit uneasy, and you understand maybe the reality that you're in. Again, I would just go back to things are fine, but the best thing that you can do is do your job and kill it at it. So whether it's something as uneasy, I think I know someone who was doing car sales. Everyone got laid off. There's no cars to sell right now. Everything's going virtual, which on kind of the good side for consumers. There's 72 and 84 month, or so that's 5 to 6 year 0% interest loan on cars, because they're trying to sell cars all online, which is very consumer friendly. But some things may be hard, but the best thing you can do is make yourself invaluable. So if you can put in a little bit more hours, just a little bit more of that genuine mind or energy behind it, I think that will go a long way, especially now, because it's going to mean a lot and it'll show a lot. I mean, it shows more about you. And then if it comes to the choice, if there are, but so many people that they can keep on, they will value that. I think right now too, is a lot of these conversations where I was finding this now is a good time to just connect with people and be empathetic. So whether that's family, friends, partners, your boss, just getting an extra call with them or whatever it may be, I think that goes a long way as well. And if you can develop a connection, you have those relationships, you have that network. One, it may help have that bond to keep you there and have that career progression with them. Maybe down the road you have another offer from them, or they may be able to refer you to someone else. So I think, hold yourself, do what you can. And then if you would be in the position where you are laid off, I would kind of bounce back to what I said earlier. Make sure you have the savings, start looking for other opportunities that match, what you're pursuing short, mid, and long term, and make it happen.
Great. So we're going to jump really quickly into personal finance. I see a lot of questions coming in about investing, and we'll touch on that really briefly, well, in just a moment, but rather how to stay on budget when your income has shifted because of the epidemic. Naturally, we know when we touched on that with the market kind of being shaky right now, that some people may have had not so much even been laid off, but they might have had corrections. We've seen in the news a lot of professionals being asked to give back parts of their salary or may have been furloughed during this time. So knowing that and knowing how that impacts people on a monthly budgeting cycle, how should our participants then be thinking about how to correct or protect their income in the grand scheme of bills being paid and other types of financial requirements or responsibilities?
I'll jump in there and say the first thing that all of us, no matter what position we're in, everybody needs to take this opportunity to begin being more strategic about spending. No matter what's going on, we all want to think just, and be more sharp with what's a need, what's not a need, what can we sort of forego in this phase, in this moment, in the near future, and what do we feel is essential. And so that, I know that that's very general advice. You may have already received that advice before, but I do think it's very important to start there, because that's the place where a lot of us usually don't want to start. When we have conversations around personal finance and financial wellness and health, most people tend to think from a perspective of, I need more, right? It's like, I need to generate more income. I need to, how can I get more income? How can I get more in? And, that's not going to help you in this moment in time create financial wellness for yourself if your spending habits are going to stay the same, right? So it's a few very simple things that we can all begin thinking about, sort of decreasing our expenses as much as possible. And it comes down to very simple things, I think, as it relates to lifestyle. For those who weren't already thinking about picking up the skill of cooking, it's such an overlooked thing in terms of being able to manage your expenses, because, restaurants are still open for, ordering in, right? And if you can literally have been in a lifestyle before this whole pandemic where every week, 2 to 3 times a week, you were ordering out. You were paying for those delivery expenses. You were paying for somebody to just bring you food. It's now the time to start thinking about actually, buying your own food, cooking for yourself, and saving that money that will come with those smaller things, right? 2 to 3 times a week, you might have actually been taking Ubers and Lyfts, right? Is now the time to start thinking about walking. And these are very simple things, but more often than not, when we're talking about financial wellness and when everything is great and we're not in sort of states of emergency, we don't start with like lowering expenses. So now's a great time to just hunker down and be comfortable with it. It's not something to sort of think of as like inherently a bad thing. It can actually be a joyful thing to watch yourself saving up money, because it's like you're finding ways to cut money down from things you actually don't need or that aren't really adding value to your life. So that's step number 1. I'll start, and then I'll kick it back to Dave, but I do have some follow-up in terms of some sort of decreasing expenses related things that we can do to just put ourselves in a better state of having a budget.
Yeah, thanks a million for grabbing that, Darius. And I'll just kick that off on with a bit of a story with my sister, and she's been at Marriott for about like 20 years, and a lot of like her savings or bonuses, et cetera, a lot of like stock and a lot of stock invested up into Marriott. And she was planning on doing things like refinancing her home and like X, Y, and Z. But after this market crash, so between January and now, the Marriott stock has dropped 50%. So like half of her savings or half of her net worth has been cut in half. So that hit her really hard. She had to like really, she was shocked, had to really adjust her savings and kind of, as I said earlier, in the long term, the stocks will go back up. She'll be fine. Thankfully, she's not in a position where, in a sense, she needs that now, even though she needs to, but you need to readjust, right? You need to focus and adjust for your savings. Another thing that I think is really telling right now is that even though that is very shocking or that could hurt, having like half of your money or net worth cut in half, I was seeing a story online where it really mentions that the people most brutally affected by this are those without the money or savings, right? Those without health insurance that have to be on the train, that have to work, that can't then afford to pay the medical bills or have the medicine. So like, the example I gave was really maybe the most fortunate position. And there's a lot less fortunate than that. So like it really hits. And I think, everyone has to protect themselves financially right now. In terms of ways to like cut back, one thing I did as I'm not driving right now, I personally like reduced my insurance. That's like super simple. I like called them, they answered within like a minute. You can like cut back on everything and you can like turn it back on the moment like you're gonna drive more often. Like for me, my car is not like really close to me, so it's not a big deal. But like I cut back on insurance and that saved me like 20, I don't know, brought me from like 120 to like under 100 on it. So it saved me like $25 on it. Something small, but like consider it. Like, I don't know, maybe you can start cutting your own hair. There's a thing called True Bill that will negotiate your bills for you. So cell phone bill, renegotiate bank fees and overdraft fees, so things like that. So just like, look at what you're spending money on. A lot of it will be saved naturally. Make sure you're not putting too much out on Uber Eats or something you can eat in the place, and like it's definitely gonna save you a ton of money. And maybe just like one last thing to like cap it off on is I was noticing for the gym, I'm not sure what like gyms everyone's at, what the policies are at, but I'm seeing what the policies are is like they're just making you pay each month even though you can't be at the gym, and they're extending it to like after you cancel your membership. So usually they extend it like 30 days after you cancel, which is like pretty, I don't like agree with, but like this is just going to mean like you have 7 months after you cancel it, which like you're probably going to be gone and no longer wanting to go to that gym. So I would encourage you to take a look at like your gym memberships too, for example. Maybe invest that money into some home workout equipment, eat healthier, work out a little bit more, if that's like your vibe or something. But I think there's a lot of opportunities right now if you just take some time, look at your finances. A lot of banks right now have like budgeting breakdowns. Just see where you can pull back, and there's a lot of tools to help you do that.
And on myself, just to make this as interactive as possible, I think we got questions that came in on the live. So
really quick, Darius, before we jump to those, because I do want to address a lot of questions coming in on investing. I know we're getting really tight on time. We've had a couple questions come in, and I'm just going to pitch this question to you both kind of generally. The stock market, right? It's a risky proposition. It can be very valuable if you play it right. As Dave just alluded to, it can be very difficult when the market crashes and you have a lot of your net worth tied up in stocks. So we've had the question asked a variety of ways. Should you invest? What should we buy if you're looking to invest? I know stock market and trading might not be all of our fortes in this conversation, but just some ideas on navigating investing and passive income as an overall strategy.
My first sort of response, like the question is, should you invest in the stock market? Yes, now is the time. That doesn't mean as soon as you hear me say yes, like tomorrow may be the time for you. For everybody listening, it really is dependent on, what position do you feel you are in right now? If you don't have savings stored away, then I would say for that person, you have cash, but it would be best to hold your cash in a savings account, particularly a high yield savings account if you can. Meaning, if you're not treating that money as sort of a revolving door, the way a checking account usually is, where you're making debit transactions in and out of it sort of constantly, but that money is just sitting there. You have 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, and the number just sort of goes on from there. Then a high yield savings account is the best place to hold your money in a very risk-free fashion. And you're going to get a interest rate that's somewhere between 20 to 30 times higher than the interest rate that most of us are getting at these large, well-known banks, right? Then the list you can just go down the list of what those names are. The Citibanks, the Capital Ones, the Wells Fargo, Chases, all of those very major banks. The majority of us are getting an extremely low interest rate on any savings we're holding with them right now. I'm talking about interest rates that look like, 0.05%, 0.01%, extremely ridiculous stuff. But I just included a link in the chat room to a bank out of North Carolina, Synchrony Bank. And this is all digital as well, so you don't have to go into a branch right now. So if you wanted to open up an account with them, you can secure a high a savings account with an interest rate of 1.5%. Now, that's not the type of rates that, the opportunity that you would look like if you're investing in something that's higher risk. But what's beautiful about that is, you're getting 1.5% guaranteed on your money year over year with just sitting the money there. So it's not too many other places where you can get that. So that's first and foremost. If you don't have savings, really think about a high yield savings account as a great starter financial tool. That's the place to you're still investing with that, right? It's sort of like a certificate of deposit. That's what the interest rate looks like. It's in par there. So start there. And then once you set aside some savings in an account like that, then think about sort of getting into the market. Once you're in the market, it's difficult to say what to invest in. That's the point where any smart person, any smart financial advisor, again, is going to tell you, you need to do your own independent research on anything you're going to invest in. Don't go off of my advice. Don't go off of Dave's advice. If I say, invest in this. Don't go off of anybody's sort of just recommendation. Go research every recommendation that you hear. So if I recommend something, it's like, okay, great. Now go do your own due diligence on it. And if everything checks off and you say, okay, wow, this does seem like a great investment opportunity, then follow up. Now, the thing about this is, you're not going to get this knowledge overnight. Anybody who tells you are is also fooling you, right? This is knowledge that you develop over time. So my call to action for anybody who doesn't feel like they have any knowledge of the stock market and they're interested in getting into it soon, the call to action is to get educated immediately. As soon as we get off the line today, start following up and thinking about, what are some of the best books that you may be able to read, just going to the public library or, thinking about borrowing books from friends or anything that you can get this knowledge for free. What online resources exist for you to leverage? There's a lot of free resources from, trading platforms such as Robinhood, right? So I'm only saying Robinhood because somebody in the chat room mentioned it. I'm not saying Robinhood is the best platform to go with. There are many others, but Robinhood is a very popular one. I'll say that. I have a platform that I'll recommend that I'll include in the list of resources for everybody who I think, is ready to invest over $500. That's the minimum for that platform. But everything else from that point is free, right? No fees, nothing associated with doing any of the trading, no fees to transfer your money. And so that's something that everybody is going to want to look out for when they're looking for, what platform should I use? A platform that's going to allow everything to be done with as least cost as possible, right? You don't want to pay anything. You don't want to pay for the trades. You don't want to pay for depositing your money. You don't want to pay for withdrawing your money. So that will be my recommendation. Any platform that's going to decrease the cost of investing for you as much as possible, go with that. And I'll kick it back.
Yeah, we're going to keep moving really quickly. I know we're really coming up on the hour. Will just add on as an aside, I think the important thing to think about in investing is that it's a long-term strategy, right? That it's not something that you do when you're looking to make quick money, unless you're willing to throw a lot of money at it and potentially lose a lot of money. That always is going to be a long-term investment. Even thinking beyond just the stock market, thinking about things like buying property and buying homes, these are long-term investments. Over time, the likelihood is that you're going to get a return on investment. Within the stock market, I believe the long-term or over time return on investment for the stock market is something like 12%. But that's something that's, of course, is charted over a long period of time, and there are going to be dips and valleys in between that time as well. So as going back to the original statement that Dave mentioned, that, sometimes the best thing to do in times of financial uncertainty is to just wait it out, especially if you're in a position to reinvest, to let your money sit for a while, and then to let your return on investment kind of recruit over time. Then you are in a great position to earn in whatever investing you're going to do. Really quickly, I know we want to touch on some other items. One word answer, Dave, I'll get your feedback on this one. Should you invest in Bitcoin, yes or no, or other types of cryptocurrency? And I'll get both of you all to give me the one word, the quick answer on that one.
That would be more uncertain than stocks, would be like my very short answer. So I wouldn't recommend it, and I'm like in financial technology. Not that I think it's a bad investment, just it would be more uncertain than stocks. Short answer.
No for the short answer.
Agreed. All right, jumping really quickly to some of our miscellaneous items. How do you start a small business? I know for both of you all, you're entrepreneurs, business owners, and I think this is probably going to carry us over into our final takeaways for the day, but and our silver linings from our panelists overall. But one, for your individual experiences, talk about your experience as business owners, navigating, starting a business. For those on our chat line who might be entrepreneurially motivated or have aspirations to start their own business, what would be some things that you would tell them and give them encouragement on as they walk out that journey?
Yeah, I would say start with either a personal problem or something that you're passionate about, because things get hard. And, it's rewarding. There's, again, the valleys and the peaks. So I would say do something that you're passionate about, because it will energize you and get you through some of those harder times when, maybe it might be easier to do something else. From there, after like working on a problem, I think, after you have something more public, you may likely incorporate, make it more official. Maybe that's an LLC or like incorporating, and that more so legally covers you. So that separates you from, being sued personally and your business's entity of like servicing people. So, you want to make sure that you're not personally liable as you are building up your organization, whether it's selling shirts, food, whatever it may be. So at that point, once you're like, more so making money, make sure that you're legally covered. And then like from like that point on, this is kind of being, very high level, but I would place like an emphasis on being profitable. Because if you are focused on, first I would say providing value. I think, if you're looking at anything, you're only, making money or, really working as a business if you are providing value to your customers, partners, etc. And you want to make sure that you're profitable, because in times like this, that's like your defense. And, a lot of times it may be a lot more attractive to look at the product or other things. But, if you don't have enough money to pay the bills, there's no tomorrow, that becomes a lot harder. So I'd encourage you in the earlier days as well to make sure you're doing things, you're paying a mind to things that are helping make revenue or sustainable, because you want to make a sustainable business that's, here tomorrow or a year from now, and that's growing. I think that begins to hint towards, someone was asking about like passive income. I think a lot of like passive income, I think stocks are a good example. I think that with passive income, usually you have to put like a lot more work to it, or it's not just like purely passive. You have to be educated in it or give it some sort of maintenance or time and attention. I think, in some form, passive income might be like, you're making money as you sleep or something. And if, your business or something that you're doing is making enough money, you practically are making money while you sleep. So I would encourage, like, again, as you're building something up, making it sustainable. And at a certain point, like, again, it could be that source for passive income once it begins to scale up. Just one quick nod there as well. One of my other sisters as well, like, has been doing YouTube for a bit, and that's begins to like scale up. And right now, even though the economy has like hurt her business a bit, like YouTube is actually paying her well. And that's like another form of like, it's kind of passive income, because older videos like make money, but she still makes new videos to build up that audience. So like, that's kind of what I mean. You still maintain, but if you're building up something of value, you can make passive income in that form as well.
So the very first thing that I want to sort of highlight and flag that is a concern for me, but I also think that it's a great opportunity for all of us to sort of maybe walk away from this conversation we're having today, really thinking long and hard about this. Only 14% of the, so from the poll, only 14% of us who are participating today identified that they were interested in business ownership. And for me, like, this being something that I'm so extremely passionate about, and something that I've actually created a course around and just went across the country trying to educate people on, particularly for Black people, particularly for Latino people, particularly for any disadvantaged group. It's so important for us to think about like entrepreneurship and business ownership as sort of pathways to wealth building, pathways to financial just wellness. So I take it as something where it's like, it scares me that only 14% of us are interested in owning businesses, because that sort of is a nod to that, like, wow, only 14% of us are really interested in like one of the greatest tools to build financial wellness in a sustainable fashion. And then that is having equity in an actual business operation, where you're not just relying upon your time to generate income for you. It's not just an exchange of, you give me 8 hours and I'll give you, this much in return. But you're building a system that, as Dave mentioned, like, you're making that early on investment with the understanding that, the payoff is, both in the short term and in the long term. You're building something that creates value and just grows over time, and it grows with you. The more you put into it, the more you're seeing out of it. And that may be a multi-year investment, but that investment sort of pays off values. It creates value in times like these, right? It's the folks who have businesses, particularly those that are set up for the digital economy. You can do transactions. You can make things happen without having to leave your home, without having to drop ship any products, right? Without having to go to the post office, without having to see someone face to face, right? At least in a physical way. We're face to face right now, but we aren't, in a physical way. And it's those folks who knew this was going to happen 10 years ago. They didn't know that COVID was going to happen, 10 years ago necessarily, but they knew that, that is where the economy is going. That's where the world is going. We need to be able to do business instantaneously. We need to be able to make money from our living rooms, because that is what financial wellness means. It's the people who made those investments 10 years ago who are sitting up doing well. They're not worried. They may have to take a hit, but they're certainly not in a position where they're generating no income, right? They don't have options for themselves. And so that's like my biggest call to action for everyone is think about what being a business owner could be for you, what that opportunity sort of really is. This is a great moment. This is a grand moment for all of us to think about what we're passionate about, what we have a skill set in, what can we do that can actually, we can generate money from, and thinking about creating a business system around that. And that does not mean that you have to consider yourself a career entrepreneur like myself. That's not what it's about. I'm not trying to turn everybody into career lifelong, like this is the only thing you want to do forever. But it's in moments like these where, having things on the side and having things adjacent to, whatever career you are pursuing, it's in these moments that those types of things, pay off. For anybody who's thinking about like what passive income looks like, I agree with Dave on the point that, nothing is really going to be passive, particularly when you're sort of first starting it off in business. It's going to be difficult to build something that's entirely passive. It's going to take some level of work. But really the idea, behind passive is that it's not that you have to do no work to generate the money. It's that, you can just press a lever. For very little work, you can get an outsized impact, right? For very little input, you can get an outsized, return on that. And that's what business ownership sort of presents the opportunity for all of us to do is we invest 5 hours of time, but we're getting back 30 hours worth of value, right? In terms of just dollar returns on our money. So I hope everybody thinks about becoming a business owner at some point, both in the near future or in the, midterm future, because it truly is the greatest pathway. And all the research shows this, all of the data shows this, it is the greatest pathway to, sustainable long-term financial wellness. And in today's world, in post-COVID-19 world, I think thinking about what it would look like to be a digital business owner, like leveraging a digital business model where the service and the value that you're delivering is not dependent upon sort of meeting someone face to face. It's not depending on like an e-commerce relationship where you have to drop ship products. but something where you can sell it digitally, generate revenue digitally, and everything in the value chain happens end to end in a digital fashion.
Yeah. Let me jump in really briefly, and I want to go ahead and close out here at the 9, and I'm going to toss it to Brianna shortly. But just as my overall takeaway, this has been an excellent conversation. Thank you, Dave and Darius, for your wisdom and your knowledge and expertise around this. I want to just emphasize that in everything that we're talking about here, what we're really talking about is a series of value propositions, right? That we're talking about, okay, should we invest, or how do we invest, or should we save, or how should we save? All of these different platforms and conversations. I think that in all of the things that we're thinking about in this, ultimately what we really need to be thinking about is exactly what you're talking about, Darius. And that, I always go back to the Gates Scholarship when I first received it, right? And then we start talking about even the Alumni Association, like what is it designed to do? And I really talk about how I got involved with this organization is because I knew that there was a network of professionals and people who were designed to help me advance professionally, and I could have these conversations and thought leadership with, but I didn't know how to access them. So the first thing for our participants and attendees, please go out and engage other scholars that you know, bring them into these conversations. I think that this is definitely the start of something that's necessary, but then taking it a step further, as I mentioned at the outset, that this scholarship program and these types of initiatives are designed in and of themselves to improve our financial outcome, improve our wellness so that we can improve our communities. Small businesses make up the backbone of the American economy. And like Darius was saying, the data proves it exponentially that, when we look at, generational wealth creation, that right now there are significant disparities by people of color or by racial background. And one of the key elements to that is business ownership and business development. And so having that entrepreneurial mindset and being able to connect with and network with one another and being able to build platforms to create not only generational wealth, but then subsequent wealth and economic impact for our communities and the communities where we come from is something we definitely need to be on board with moving forward. So thank you both for your time. I appreciate you all being here. I want to throw it over to Brianna really quickly and let you make our closing announcements, and then we will follow up as well with information on the resource guides that we want to make sure everyone has access to as well. So Brianna, can you hear us, or are you able to speak now?
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone. For those who do not know me, my name is Brianna Weatherspoon. I am currently serving as GMS LA Chapter's president, and I am also the national programming lead for the National Association. Hope everyone's doing really well today. Just wanted to say thank you to everyone who has participated in today's event. Thank you to all of our panelists, our moderator, Sterling. We appreciate you guys. And we definitely want you guys to be involved with us much more. We are working very diligently to create programming, especially during these times when we're all practicing social distancing and isolation. We're creating more virtual events and opportunities for us to get together. And we do have a couple coming up this week. We have our GMS happy hour that is coming up this upcoming Friday. It'll be 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 5, 6, and then 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And then we also do have our standing Sunday coffee session. We didn't have one this past Sunday, obviously, because of Easter, but we will be picking up again this Sunday. Times for that is 11 a.m. Pacific, 12, 1, and 2 p.m. Eastern Time. So hopefully you guys can save the date right now and stay tuned to Facebook and Instagram, where we'll be posting the official flyers and RSVP forms for that. And just ways for us to continue to come together as a family, especially during these times. We are here for you. We support each other. We love you guys, and we look forward to having you guys join us again very, very soon. And I'll pass it back to Sterling now. Thank you, guys.
Definitely. Thank you all. I just got a question in. What is the Instagram platform?
Oh, yes,
all
absolutely.
of the chapters have different ones, but I'll throw it to national first, and then I'll talk about, GMS alumni has already been responded to. I'll drop the Atlanta chapter. Brianna, I'm sure you'll drop LA in as well.
Absolutely.
And anyone else who's associated with any other chapters who isn't one of the panelists right now, please go ahead and comment in the question and answer box, and then we'll address that later on. Otherwise, I want to thank everyone for their time this evening. It's been an excellent discussion. Definitely a lot more that we can get into, and I apologize for running short on time today. A variety of other things that we really want to address, looking at things like home ownership, other aspects of personal finance, debt consolidation, credit scores and credit reporting. This conversation can go on and on and on. So there will definitely be more conversations as we move forward. So thank you all for your time. Be on the lookout for your resource document coming out, and engage with us on social media to make sure that you stay abreast of other opportunities and conversations that we look forward to having. So thank you, everyone, and have a great evening.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it, everyone.